Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, folks. Michael Zuber, one rental at a time, back with episode number 3 with a new guest and someone we will absolutely have back. Jan, how you doing, buddy?
Doing great. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So one of the topics you sent over that we could riff about was macroeconomics. You didn't know. That is something I enjoy talking about. I enjoy having conversation with my experts because we don't always agree. And I have no idea if we're going to agree or disagree. And I just want to riff on what's going on. So thank you for doing this.
Absolutely. Yeah, it was great.
So I guess the first thing I got to ask, kind of macroeconomic, is I think it's pretty clear that first off, a recession will be in our future, right? The only question is timing, right? The business cycle is undefeated. Right. Where do you come down on a recession? Do you think we are in one? Do you see one in 2022? In one meaning we've already had negative Q1. You think we'll have negative Q2? Do you think we have something that's validated at the end of the year? Do you think the recession's pushed off to next year? Where do you come down on that kind of discussion?
Yeah, I mean, I think a recession sounds worse than it can be. And so, it's just two consecutive quarters of negative growth. I think I'm expecting that we have stepped into a recession already. I think we'll see probably the worst of it this fall and winter. I think, keep doing what you're doing this summer and enjoying your life. Because it might get a little bit more tumultuous. I don't have a crystal ball, but all signs are pointing a certain way. Yeah. Runaway inflation, obviously a big problem. I think a really interesting space that we're in is that, generally printing money and controlling the rate of borrowing or interest rates are, the two biggest levers that the government has to pull on and the Fed has to pull on. And it's like, there's the interesting space we're in where runaway inflation would suggest and prescribe that we actually bring interest rates up in order to control, spending, right? And make it more expensive to borrow so that people borrow less and prices hopefully come down.
Yep.
However, negative GDP growth would suggest and prescribe that we actually lower interest rates in order to stimulate the economy. So I'm like, where the hell is this going to go? Right.
Yeah. One thing I would tell you right now is I do not want the Fed's jobs. I think the Fed's painted themselves into a corner where there are no good outcomes at this point. I think it's all bad. The question is how long and how deep. So pretty interesting. Just to kind of round, I don't think we get a negative GDP print in Q2.
Okay.
So I don't think we are technically in a recession. I do not see a recession in 2022. I see, unfortunately, the delay, meaning it's going to be worse and longer. So I'm calling Q2, Q3 of next year or Q3, Q4 as back-to-back negative GDPs. So that's, I think we have a lot of kind of YOLO summer going on, right? Vacations and all of that. One last kind of blowout party like it's 1999. Yeah, I think rates go much higher. Well, you're borrowing millions of dollars, right? You're buying office buildings and parks. Do you have an opinion on where you think the Fed gets the Fed funds rate? Or maybe you want to talk 30-year debt? I don't know what you want to talk about, but where do you see all this debt going? Where are rates going?
Yeah, listen, I'm positive I actually know the answer to this. And rates are either going to go up, down, or stay the same.
Yes! There's only 3 outcomes, folks. Pick one.
I do think, 30-year debt is going to go up to probably as high as 7.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's reasonable. Yep.
Yeah. By the end of this year. However, all that is forcing me to do is get even better at seller financing. Right.
I hope people are hearing this. Go back and watch episode 1, number 2. That's exactly my point. That's what I'm telling my audience is, if you're an investing, right, you're a one rental at a time fan, you're an investor. When rates go up, get better at seller financing, right? Seller financing can have, now lots of sellers will want bank rates, right? They'll want 7.25, but you get to have a conversation with them and tell them what's going on. Hey, your asset's not bankable, this, that, the other. Oh, by the way, as Jan shared with us, I think it was episode 2, one of his sellers wanted a certain number. And he's like, well, we could do that, but it's going to be an 11-year note versus a 30-year note. Because again, it's just math, right? So yeah, get better at seller financing is absolutely the right answer.
That's it. That's it.
Yeah.
I would say some macro trends that really concern me in terms of global supply chain issues is
Sure.
the fact that Russia produces, roughly a third of the world's wheat, and they are refusing to plant wheat. And so come harvest time in the fall, this fall, we're going to have a third less wheat in the global food supply. Roughly a third of the world depends on wheat as a primary calorie source. That's a lot of people that are going to be impacted, right?
Yeah, that's something I've put out as one of my greatest concerns. We've already missed the planning cycle in what's called the bread belt of Europe, right? With what's going on with Russia and Ukraine. There are wheat stores. Actually, China is rumored to have the largest wheat store. I don't know if I trust their stats. Right. There's generally, in my opinion, there's enough in storage to get us through one bad season.
Yeah.
It's going to be stretched. There will be people that were dependent on 1,800 calories that are going to get 15. It's going to be bad. It's going to suck. But dude, if we miss 2 planting seasons, not good.
Right.
Not good. And again, we're talking starvation and just horrible worldwide outcomes because of this. It is bad. It is. And again, now we have India refusing to export. We have a lot of kind of insulation going on around the country or around the world, excuse me. So it's a very, that is a huge concern of mine.
Very concerning. Right. And it's like, we think we're squeezed by global supply chain issues now. It's like, dude, wait until second and third world countries can't eat. You think they're going to be producing? Like it's.
Yeah. Oh yeah. That's
yeah.
I think here, let's talk about inflation. I love how they strip out, food and energy out of, CPI, core inflation. Right. I think the rent calculation goes up from here. I think energy goes up, and I think food goes up for what you just talked about, right? You strip out 20% and you're dipping into storage and you're like shipping all different places. Oh my God. I don't think inflation, I think, everybody's talking about peak inflation at 8.5 in the fake CPI number and went down to 8.3. I think it goes back up. What about you?
I don't think we've seen the worst of it. I mean, simply put, like, you can't print trillions of dollars and expect there to not be effects here. Like and it doesn't happen instantly, right?
No, exactly. There's a delay, right? We live in a very microwave society where everything is instant.
Right.
Dude, I don't know. I just think about it as waves hitting the U.S. economy and frankly, the worldwide economy. They just keep coming. Right? More and more bad news just keeps coming because, you dropped a pebble in the ocean hundreds of miles away and the ripples they just keep coming, man.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
How about unemployment? Where do you think that goes? We're at, 3.6%, U3. You think that goes up, down, sideways?
I'm not sure on that one. I mean, obviously there was a big gap there for quite some time when people realized, why work? I'm just getting checks from the government,
A buddy of mine talked about people in Washington getting paid roughly $75,000 a year to do nothing.
Yeah. I mean, I had friends that were like, hey, this is what I'm doing is working. I'm a yoga teacher, and I lost my job to COVID, and now I'm getting paid to sit around. Why go back? This is great, right?
Yeah.
And so it's been a mess. I don't know. What do you think? What do you think on unemployment?
Again, I come out to the side that the Fed's going to raise rates to 3%, the funds rate 4%. I think frankly, the only way we break inflation is to double, maybe triple unemployment. So we're going somewhere between 7 and 9%. Now that's not fast, right? Again, back to the ripple, right? I think that's, August, September of next year. I think we exit this year at like 4.5, which is which is 20% higher than today, but not horrible.
Yeah.
But I think, again, I call the recession Q2, Q3. I think it gets pretty bad.
Yeah.
You can't, again, this is, you're talking about, you can't print all this money. For me, it's a hangover. And for the longest time, we stayed at the party and we did hair of the dog, which meant we just stayed drunk. And at this point, the party's out and the cops are coming in.
Mm-hmm.
And if you are not prepared, it's going to hurt.
And we're feeling the effects of it now. Obviously, in the stock and crypto markets are getting absolutely rocked and crushed. And it's like, a lot of that money that was printed, that was supposed to stimulate the economy. Obviously, in retrospect, we know that it was a massive overswing in terms of the stimulation that was needed. But, a lot of that money found its way into financial assets that just all bubbled, right? I mean, we've been in an insane asset bubble. And now you're seeing that, those markets are, because there's more liquidity, obviously we're seeing the downstream effects very quickly there, but we haven't seen all the effects that are yet to come in, like labor markets and in other asset classes, right?
Yep.
Besides financial products and general assets. So, it's an interesting time to be alive for sure.
There you go. What else do you see in the macro environment as we wrap up episode 3?
Honestly, my biggest concern is the food shortages. I just think that is going to cause more waves than a lot of people are ready for, right? Not only food shortages, but also just the raw inputs to food, right? Like fertilizer, a lot of fertilizer, right? NPK, Russia and Ukraine are responsible for a lot of that. That's skyrocketed, and so
I think every human being on the planet is going to feel the impacts of the food shortage. Some people will just feel it in higher prices, but you're going to feel it. Some of you will feel it with lack of choice, because at some point it just won't end up on the shelves. It will go somewhere else. But also kind of at an economic level, I think there's going to be some new relationships established. For example, if China truly has these, it's rumored that they have over a year's supply of wheat, which they're the only country to have over a year of supply. They could, the articles I've read, again, I don't trust data in China, but let's just go with what was written. They could theoretically make up the entire year of missing wheat themselves, supposedly. What I know about China, they're not going to do that freely.
Right.
They're going to create like, hey, country XYZ, you want to get your wheat supplied? Well, you got to sign this military or this or that thing. Yeah, there's going to be starvation is a huge motivator. And
absolutely.
And your leaders will do theoretically nearly anything possible to get food for their starving people. It's going to be bad.
Yeah, and China's incredibly well positioned. As you said, if the data is real, they're really well positioned to take more power on the global stage. Who knows? I mean, America as a economic superpower isn't going to last forever. It's lasted a long time, but at a certain point, right, we perhaps will not be the currency that the world is denominated in, and China's well positioned to be kind of the next global superpower. So if I do have kids, I was thinking of teaching them Polish and Spanish, but maybe I need to start working on Mandarin.
Mandarin would I mean that that kind of makes sense. Very cool. Yeah, this has been a lot of fun. I appreciate your time today. How can people find you?
Find me on Facebook. Washington Real Estate Investing. That's my Facebook group. We've got about 14,000 members in there. Woo! Great place to learn about investing in the Pacific Northwest, but in general, real estate investment. Tons of great free content and good place to have your questions answered. And so, find me on Facebook.
Very cool, man. Thank you for your time this morning.
Thank you so much, Michael.